And I think we're live. Let's see here.
On YouTube, yes.
All right, we are live. There we go. All right, the only place we're not live, unfortunately, is X. Couldn't control that. Let's see. Let's let X know. And good evening, everyone. How are you doing? I hope everyone can see me on the live chat here. Let's make sure this is working.
We're on Instagram.
Instagram's working. This is working. Okay, so let's see here. Error on X. Live chat can be found on Facebook and YouTube. So I don't know whether.
Maybe they're having their own technical problems.
Yeah. I don't know. Whatever. So we have a lot to talk about tonight. There's a lot of things going on. First, a couple of things to clean up first. We will have live chat next week. The first week of August, the week of August 5th, is technically going to be my birthday, birthday week. So there's a good chance I will not have the live chat unless there's some tropical mischief. Then, yeah, we'll have the live chat. So pending right now, it looks like have that week off. But if there's actually weather going on, like a hurricane or tropical depression or something, we will have live chat. So I'll keep you posted on that. Of course, we have the Mets and Yankees game on as well. So I'll give any updates if anything interesting happens. The Yankees, which really need this game, lead 2-1, mostly because of Soto, who's just an amazing player. And in the meantime, we are dealing with showers dodging around the region. Now, our surface map has been showing for quite some time this stationary front wavering around the region with a wave of low pressure developing from time to time. As that has been going on, we've been getting these waves of showers. It's kind of make or break in terms of rainfall. For example, in Freehold, we've been struggling to get a tenth of an inch of rain, let alone a half an inch. And other locations just to our south have received several inches of rain, 2-3 inches of rain. So it's kind of hit and miss, right? So with that being the case, we are not really answering our flash flooding threat. Oh, and Pete Alonso just hit a home run. He's back. The polar bear's back. Yes. And by the way, you're welcome. You don't have to watch and torture yourself with ESPN. I will keep you up to date on what is going on with the game. And of course, the good guys are winning 3-2.
Do that to me.
Well, I sometimes mute it.
It's okay. I love you anyway.
I torture my wife with sports. So back to the weather once again. Sorry about that, but go Mets. The setup that we have here is very tropical-like. Okay, there's no doubt about that whatsoever. In the way that this pattern has set up, plenty of moisture in the atmosphere, loaded with moisture, but the lifting hasn't been all that impressive. It's kind of hit and miss, and so what you end up with is more of a convective element in this setup here. So you get, in this case, showers. We've seen a lot of showers in northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, plenty of rainfall down in southern New Jersey, but we continue, and part of this, I think, is because of that feedback with the microscale, the lowest scale. Okay, we've been seeing a lot of convection die when it gets over central New Jersey. In my opinion, this is because we initially had a feedback where thunderstorms were missing the region, and so you had drier conditions over in central New Jersey. But also, in terms of the topography of the region, you have this kind of bowl shape here in Monmouth and Northern Ocean County that allows that dry air to kind of sit there and kill these thunderstorms. So what you need is kind of a widespread precipitation event, not necessarily a thunderstorm event. So as a result, we are seeing this factor play out, where this convection is focused to the north of the region in northern New Jersey, to the south of the region over southern New Jersey and portions of southeastern Pennsylvania. But this area right here, there's a nice gradient of dry, slightly lower dew points. The moisture at the ground level is slightly lower, and that gradient is basically killing the convective nature of these showers and thunderstorms. And that's what we've been seeing, which is really interesting. You really can't forecast it until you actually see it evolve. And then once it evolves and once it locks in, then really the only thing that's going to break it is a widespread precipitation event, like a tropical storm or a nor'easter, something of that nature. So we're going to have more showers rotate through the region, and it's driven by this impressive gradient. Again, what's really interesting about this gradient is the precipitable water values are just really impressive. Now, I have to say this very, very carefully. The fact that we're seeing precipitable water values in just a general synoptic pattern easily push over 2 inches is incredibly impressive to me. I know that, we don't want to push any narratives here, but let's be honest here. Normally, in the past, over the past 20 years as I studied, it was difficult to get these precipitable water values to easily push over 2 inches. Now it's happening regularly. So it's something that really stands out to me. And the reason why it's important is that when you have these conditions in place, you can produce very impressive rainfall rates with only a limited trigger. So that trigger can lead to easily 1 inch, 2 inches of rain falling in one location and barely anything anywhere else. So this is incredibly impressive to me the more I watch it, because it opens up the potential for so much impacts in terms of flash flooding and urban flooding if you're not prepared for it. So that's why I'm talking about it a lot, because I want you to be prepared if we get that heavy rainfall event. If we get that trigger set up, that trigger will lead to significant rainfall rates and the potential for flash flooding with very little notice. And we've been seeing that for the past several days with some of these thunderstorms. Most of the region's quiet, but you get this flash flooding with 2-3 inches of rain in a very short period of time. Our infrastructure is not prepared for that, and so you end up with problems. Oh, and tonight's discussion is sponsored, well, not sponsored, but it is supported by C4 drinking energy drink here. Testing it out for the winter, see how well it works in terms of staying up to date with everything. So far so good. It's a nice little buzz. So caffeine buzz. Yeah. So again, you can see the amount of moisture here. Now we're talking about the lifting parameters. Phrenologenesis is very weak. Okay, not very impressive. You do have some support in the vorticity advection, but again, it's weak. This is why we're not seeing widespread showers and thunderstorms. And by the way, this is a great time to talk about and just kind of step back. Remember, the synoptic models a couple of days ago were advertising widespread, green everywhere, right? But in reality, that's not the case. Why is it doing that? Because of convective feedback error, okay? So when you're dealing with convective precipitation and convective environment, the synoptic scale models tend to overproduce rainfall and overproduce lifting and creates a lot of convective feedback. Keep that in the back of your mind in our next discussion that we're going into after we go over this pattern. Keep this in mind when thinking about tropical forecasting. Okay, so just take that, put it in the back of your mind, lock it in a nice little lock box, which we have a little fun with that word, right? And let's go forward into the rest of this forecast, but just keep that in the back of your mind. So on the water vapor satellite picture, you can see the transport here. Our deep trough is starting to push towards the coast, and the fundamental difference between this pattern and the one where it was very hot and humid was that the hot and humid pattern, where we had dew points around 80 and we had a heat index pushing over 100 degrees, featured this Western Atlantic ridge able to push into the coastal plain. Because recently we've had a slight warming in the stratosphere over North America and Europe, we've seen more of an enhancement of the polar jet stream and more of an ability for this trough to push towards the coast. The other good news is that, hey, look, we're in late July. We're moving past the peak of summer, and as we move into August, we're going to see stronger and stronger support for these cold fronts to be able to drive towards the coastal plain. And so as a result, we'll have more and more of these breaks of these heat waves and the ability for cooler, drier air to build into the region. And the way that's going to look in a La Nina-ish, can't call this a La Nina pattern because we really haven't established La Nina, but let's call it La Nina-ish. It's moving in that direction. What that leads to is a lot of positively tilted troughs, a lot of slow-moving cold fronts, and a lot of tropical moisture surging up the coast. So with this moisture surging up the coast and this Western Atlantic ridge trying to build towards the coast, it sets up some interesting issues that we really have to watch out for as we move into August. I know I'm dropping a lot of hints. I know. When we take a look at the weather at the upper level winds at 250 millibars, you can see the setup here. Just a jet streak streaming right across the Atlantic, a positive NAO signal. You have a nice upper level low around Greenland. You have your jet stream able to shoot right across the coast, right across the Atlantic. You have your Western Atlantic ridge able to build. Not seeing a lot of shear until you get to about here. So this isn't a textbook La Nina pattern, okay, that everyone was expecting, including myself. That's my error too. You had you had the thought that this wouldn't be in place. But with this shear component here, it's something to watch out for when you're looking at the later forecasts. Said, hey, look, the model guides never had any of this in the seasonal or in the several days out forecasts. But it's here. So when you're thinking about tropical storm strength and you're thinking about hurricane strength and all that stuff, when you're looking at the model guidance, understand you really don't want to get ahead of yourself in details. Because these little observations, these little factors, makes a huge difference between we're talking about a weak tropical depression or a full-fledged hurricane. Okay? So very interesting setup here. You can see our trough building in, setting us up for much improved conditions as we head towards the weekend. So we're going to continue with these pesky showers and thunderstorms on through tomorrow. So you want to keep an umbrella handy with you. But by tomorrow evening, on through the weekend, man, it is going to be nice as the winds become light. Our precipitable water values fall off. Literally almost no cape. And let's see here. I think I pulled it off here. Here we are. Our 700 millibar relative humidity by Friday morning is below 10%. So this is going to be a weekend of sunshine, low humidity, seasonable temperature. So if you have plans to head out towards, I don't know, the beach or something like that, it's going to be absolutely beautiful out there. Or, you can also go to a county fair. I know that Freehold's having one, Monmouth County Fair. I think it is starting. Is it starting tonight? We might actually have it start tonight, I think. I'm not sure. But certainly excellent weather is on the way for this upcoming weekend. I just wanted to give you guys some good news. We've had a lot of bad news, a lot of muggy, hot, disgusting weather. Hey, we got some good news. It's going to be beautiful this weekend, so get out there and enjoy it. On the HRR, which again, as I said this morning in the YouTube video, when people start talking about like, oh, we have the future cast or this cast or that or a special model, it's the HRR guidance. That's all it is. It used to be the wrap, now it's the HRR. HRR continues to show unsettled conditions all the way on through tonight. So don't be surprised to get a little bit of rumble of thunder, especially if you are in northern New Jersey or around the New York City metro. And then tomorrow, a few pesky showers as well. Nothing that's significant or widespread. Just again, pesky showers. Keep an umbrella handy with you until about noon tomorrow. And then after that, we start to really dry out. So if hopefully you could dodge a shower or two. And then after that, tomorrow evening on through the entire weekend, we're talking about high pressure and control and beautiful weather conditions. Drinking air. Meanwhile, Mets are still leading 3-2. The Yankees are trying to mount a comeback here. Got one guy in first, and the Mets are about to strike out this guy. I don't know what he's doing. He just struck out because he couldn't see the ball or something. I don't know. He looked like he gave up right in the middle of the at-bat. So that's the latest update on the Mets-Yankees game. Now, let's talk about tropical forcing. It has been dead as can be for much of this month. And guess what? For the rest of this month, going to continue to be the same. But we're starting to see signs that something might be developing in the tropical Atlantic. And the reason why is because the limiting factor, that's what this yellow and orange is and red. This is sinking air. Now, okay, so let me step back here and show you how to use this chart properly. Down here is where you are located. So in terms of the Atlantic, what we want to focus on is right here. So we'll take this dash line and take it down here. So anything over here is what we want to focus on. So around here is Africa, here's the Atlantic, and North America, okay? So when we're looking at this chart, we want to start, this is the earliest date, this is current, and then this is the future. So that's how you read it, okay? I know for most it seems like very standard, but sometimes it can be confusing. So with that being the case, right now we have a lot of substance in the atmosphere. And what this chart is the mean 200 millibar vertical velocity, vertical potential anomalies. So you have rising air and sinking air, right? So this sinking air is suppressing any type of development in the tropical Atlantic, which is why it's been dead quiet. But by the time we get to early August, we shift more to strong lifting. And look at that. That strong lifting is focusing right over the Caribbean and into much of the tropical Atlantic. Now, when you have a setup like this evolving, what you end up with is the potential for stronger tropical waves and better potential for development. Not a guarantee, just a better overall environment. So this means that that you have a higher threat potential here for tropical development. Trying to be as clear as possible. So not a guarantee, but better potential. So when we consider that, well, right on cue, there's our tropical wave coming off. Now, understand, this is not the first tropical wave that has been this robust coming off the African coast. There's been several coming off the African coast that have been this strong, but they kept on running into this substance and dry air and desert type air that's been the Sahara dust killing these tropical waves. And the same thing's going to happen to this one initially. But by the time it gets to early August, we start to get a better potential for development here. And that's what a lot of models are trying to do, including the European guidance. Now, I'm going to use the European guidance and the European ensembles guidance as an example of overamplification. Some people jumping ahead of the cart before the low pressure system develops. Here's the thing. When it comes to warm core low pressure systems, you never want to jump the gun. You want to wait until an actual low pressure system develops, because warm core low pressure systems are very sensitive. And because they're very sensitive, little factors like the shear I was just showing, a little bit of dry air, interaction with islands, could mean all the difference between a developing tropical low and something that just remains a trough, between a tropical depression and a tropical storm or hurricane. So what do we know already going into this? We know that synoptic models tend to over amplify convective feedback, especially when you're getting 7 to 10 days out, right? We've seen a great example with this current rain pattern that looked like everyone was going to get 1 to 2 inches of rain. Instead, many locations are struggling to get 1/10 of an inch of rain. So first things first, a lot of people are noticing I like to call this SpaghettiOs. It's a lot of fun. It kind of gets me a little hungry too, because then I say, gee, that'd be nice to have SpaghettiOs. But this kind of gives you the different options. And, look, this makes sense. You have your Western Atlantic Ridge, these tropical systems. As I've been warning, anything that develops around the Bahamas, we have to keep an eye on, track up the coast. Okay? So, synoptically speaking, the potential of something moving up the coast could be a remnant low, could be a tropical storm, could be something. It's has that potential, right? But use caution in trusting this, because what it's trying to do is enhance this low pressure system, and it's creating a convective feedback problem. Now, the problem with doing the convective feedback, and let me see here, let me pull up the European version of this. Let me pull up, here we are. I'm going to show you the European operational version of this real fast. I thought I had it up, but I'll put it up right now. There we are. And of course now I can't find it. Oh, here we are. Okay, so what does it look like? It tries to produce this very intense low pressure system out here. So here's a couple of problems with this whole solution before we get overactive with, what is it going to do? How is it going to impact us? Okay. In this scenario, the model guidance is creating very strong convective feedback issues. It's creating very strong thunderstorms around this tropical low, leading to rapid intensification. Is it possible? Yes. I'm not saying it's not possible, but understand when you have a tropical low that's rapidly intensifying, it also builds the ridge to the north. So the longer range guidance is more likely to enhance the Western Atlantic Ridge and drive anything into the coastal plain. So that's why you're seeing the evolution that you're seeing in the ensemble guidance. Here, let's take a look at this from a 500 millibar level here. So we'll do this European, we'll do North America, and we'll do the 500 millibar heights. And what does it look like? Well, there's our tropical low. Look what it's trying to do with our ridge. See how it kind of builds it? See how it does this and tries to drive everything northward? Why is it showing this? Well, what it's trying to do is that as it's intensifying the tropical low pressure system, it's trying to enhance the ridge to the north of it, which means that it has to force it into the eastern United States. This may be an error and something that we need to really consider when we look at this whole pattern evolving. Oh, and Lindor just crushed it. The Mets now lead 5-2. Yay. Okay, so that is the understanding that we have to have when we're looking at this tropical potential. So as I've been saying, prepare. Have your supplies handy with you, but don't get caught up in what I guarantee will be 100 different YouTube video channels showing like major hurricane hitting the East Coast. That would be an error. I would suggest not getting wrapped up in any of that nonsense. So with that, that's pretty much what I have for this evening. And now I will answer all of your questions first on the premium live chat, and then we'll talk on YouTube here and we'll answer any questions there. And we'll see if there's anything. Obviously, there's nothing on X because for whatever reason, X wouldn't work tonight. You know what it is? It's they're jealous.
I think it's on their end.
Probably. But they're jealous. That's what it is. Okay, so let's start off with, we have a lot of questions here. Let's see here. This is from Hugo Decker. I hope I'm saying that right. This summer, it seems like every time there's a chance of storms, you say there is plenty of moisture but a lack of a trigger to fire up the storms. Why is this the case this summer so much? Or am I mistaken on this? Either way, do you see anything in the future that shows potential to get widespread storms in our region? Okay, awesome question. Here's the thing, right? In the summer, there's always a limitation in terms of lifting parameters, okay? During El Nino summers, they tend to be more potential because your troughs are able to dig into the northern mid-Atlantic a little bit more vigorously. And so as a result, you end up with an environment where you get more widespread showers and thunderstorms. With La Nina, because you have the Western Atlantic Ridge, that lifting is more focused towards the Great Lakes. So this year, the showers and thunderstorms can tend to be a little bit hit and miss. But this overall is the theme in summer. It's the theme of convective precipitation in that it's not just your lifting involved in the atmosphere from the synoptic level, but also the fact that with the thunderstorms and rising and sinking motion being the dominant, you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. With the dominant feature, I lost train of thought there. Okay. With the thunderstorms, with your rising and sinking motion with the individual thunderstorms, you end up with areas where you don't get those thunderstorm development. And so as a result, the thunderstorm development starts to feed back on itself. And so you start ending up with areas that keep on missing that thunderstorm threat while other areas keep on getting hit. And that is essentially what we are seeing now. And good evening, Card. Card Shark is always here, always providing excellent questions. Saw that all the active sunspots, I knew he was going to ask that, I knew it, are close to the equator, which I understand to be a sign of solar max is nearing. If the trend continues, would not be surprised if solar max occurs in the next couple of months. The expectation is between now and November to reach that max. And then once we hit that max, then we slowly work down towards a minimum, which will take probably about a year and a half, 2 years to get to that point. So we're definitely moving in that direction. And another fly ball. Looks like that's an out. Okay. So the Mets end the fifth inning 5-2. Perfect. Looking at the 250 millibar jet, the number of close-off lows and high-pressure wave breaks is amazing. The Pacific looks like a serpentine belt on a car. Yeah, the reason why we're seeing that is because the stratosphere has been unusually warm for this time of year in the higher latitudes. In fact, I'm kind of surprised it's been as warm as it has been. Is that going to continue to be a theme? I don't know. This is something that I'm watching very carefully. I know that Judah Cohen is studying this very, very carefully. For those of you who don't know, he's a great follow on X. He's a professor. He's the guy that created the observations with the Siberian effect. We've both been noticing it. He's been writing about it quite a bit. Like I said, I strongly suggest you follow him on X. He's a great source of information. the fact that it's happening in the summer is surprising. Is it a factor of what we have with the influence from Tonga? Don't know. It's a possibility. But it's something that has created a lot of waviness and a lot of volatility in the polar jet stream, which you typically don't see when you're developing a La Nina, not until you get to the fall. So certainly something that I'm keeping an eye on. It looks like we're trending back more towards cooler, so we should see more stronger ridges taking shape, but certainly something that is interesting. Rob Allen agrees that the 12Z European ensembles is no good, or as he put, no bueno. Always leave it to me to butcher English and Spanish. That's what I just did. That's outstanding. Okay. Reroll of the geographic same spot on the Garden State Parkway heading south during the day towards AC right by the rest stop. Got pop-up showers on July 5th and this past Sunday, virtually the same exact spot. And you can expect that once again tomorrow morning. But hey, good news the rest of the weekend. Perfect. Also looking at Earth News School, the first sign of cooling in the air in the northern hemisphere are appearing as the sun angle and the amount of daylight drops. Yeah, we'll start to see that developing more vigorously after the second week of August. We'll really start to see it build over portions of the Arctic and northern Canada and Greenland, and we'll continue to see that develop. What is the status of the PDO? It is currently still negative. It's not as robust as what it was in the spring, but it's still negative. It backed off a little bit, and I think that's what caused the La Nina development to slow down and short circuit a bit as well. Convective feedback in model run outputs also causes havoc in the winter, which are then displayed on social media as absurd snow totals. Yes, I agree. See, the thing is that, and this is an issue with the AI stuff that's going on out there, because guess what? Convective feedback is a natural process because of the equations we use, okay? There's an inherent error because you're talking about chaos. And I know that a lot of people want to hang their hat on AI and be all excited about AI, but I am telling you right now, this will always be a problem. And this is why you cannot just take model guidance, average it out, or use AI or something of that nature and think it's going to disappear. It's going to be a constant problem. What kind of surface dew points are you anticipating this weekend? Along the coast, 60s, over the interior, 50s. During the morning lows, I would not be surprised on Sunday morning that we end up with morning lows with dew points in the upper 40s in the Poconos and Catskills. Would not be surprised by that. I believe the Monmouth County Fair starts tomorrow. Yeah, that's right, tomorrow. No, it looks like it's starting tomorrow.
I thought it was next week.
No, because next week starts August. And that's where my parents be up here. No, yeah, it starts tomorrow. That should be fun. You know what? We're close enough that, if an elephant gets loose, we can go and pet it.
Okay. I must be having mini comas or something.
No. It starts tomorrow. Because next week, my parents come up. Because next week is the last couple of days of July. Let's see what we got in YouTube world. Hello, VRP weather. We sure got wet in Philly around 12:30 this afternoon. Happy upcoming birthday. Thank you. Do you think early August heat wave will be even worse than the last? I'm not seeing any indication of that. And the key thing is this. The model guidance I've been studying basically has not produced the same 20 degrees Celsius, 850 millibar temperatures. So what I'm expecting is humid, definitely humid. But temperatures more like in the 90 to 95 range, like let's say 92 with a heat index of 95, 96, but not the same environment that we saw previously. What are your thoughts on the low La Nina development? There's a lot of stuff going on in terms of research. There are some who are saying that because of global warming, that we're not going to see the typical La Nina values that we typically see. And I understand what they're saying in terms of the sea surface temperatures. I do. I get it. But the problem is that if you're not going to do the sea surface temperatures, fine, then do the tropical forcing. Use the forcing parameters like the SOI, like where is the convection developing. And that's not playing out like a La Nina. It's more like a neutral state. I think it's pretty fair to say that the model guidance was way too aggressive with the La Nina back in the spring. There were some who were calling for a historic La Nina, which was ridiculous. It looks like a weak to moderate back in the spring. Now cold neutral to weak. If we're going to get a true La Nina developing, it's going to be a weak La Nina. The subsurface just isn't all that impressive. Even if you take into account global warming and the warming of the oceans, it's still not that impressive. Okay, so it's still the same forcing parameters. And I still say go with the SOI to get the understanding of what the forcing parameters are, and then study where the convection is developing. And all of that is focused on the date line and to the west, which tells me pseudo weak east-based La Nina forcing. So that increases a better potential for your trough axis to be somewhere around the Tennessee River Valley and your Western Atlantic Ridge / Southeast Ridge to be displaced more towards the Bahamas. But again, we have to see how the rest of the pattern works out from high latitude blocking. Again, with a west-based QBO, that's the influence of the stratospheric winds. West-based QBO means that you have a stronger polar vortex, lower potential for high latitude blocking. Doesn't mean you don't have high latitude blocking. It just means that if it does develop, it isn't able to stick usually and breaks down and then tries to redevelop again. So a lot of factors that go into that. But there's still so much to study that it's not smart to make any declarative statements on how that impacts the winter or the fall or the winter or anything of that nature. As it stands right now, not all that impressive. Do you have any questions on Facebook?
Yeah.
All right.
See if I can not trip again.
All right, let's read here. From Steve Sagnit. I think that. I apologize ahead of time. Trust me, I butcher everything. We got 2.32 inches outside of East Stroudsburg in about 90 minutes. Yep, typical. Well, August started off hot and steamy in the east. I would say humid. Humid's not too bad. Happy early birthday. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Hey, look, the Mets are already giving me a birthday gift because, look, I have family that are very pro-Yankee, and it's going to be very quiet
Very much.
this year. It's going to be very, very, very quiet indeed because we're setting up for possibly a sweep here. We'll see. Look, Yankee fans, just so you know, they still have to get through the bullpen. That's all I'm going to say. So we'll see what happens. Let's see here. Do we have any other questions here? We'll go back to... Thank you very much for the birthday wishes. Looks like everything else is playing out. Let's see what's going on with the radar here. See if there's anything going on. And right now, the Yankees have runners on first and second. It's the fifth inning, so that's usually where the starting pitchers start to give out. But there's 2 outs. So let's see who's batting now. I'm not sure who this guy is. And ESPN doesn't do a great job of actually... Wells? Not the pitcher. I remember pitcher to Wells, but then I'm dating myself, right? Let's take a look at the radar here. I cannot show the game just so you know, because then this whole thing would just get shut down, and ESPN would be very angry that I did a better job with
Even if it's 2 seconds, it's like copyright.
Right. And see, the problem is that ESPN would then be very upset that I did a better job covering baseball than they do because they're too busy talking about their TV shows rather than the actual game. Um, the showers are collapsing over much of the region now because we're losing our convective forcing. We do have a nice line of thunderstorms over central Pennsylvania, but it looks like that is getting ready to weaken aside from this lone severe thunderstorm out there over around the Appalachians. But that probably is not going to make its way to our neck of the woods, at least as anything strong as we move towards midnight. And as expected, fifth inning, 2 outs, bases loaded for the Yankees. They have a chance here. They do have a chance here. I think we're probably going towards the bullpen. It's only the fifth inning. That's not good. That is not just that is disappointing. But what are you going to say? Austin Wells, the catcher. Well, I'll tell you. Now, what's interesting is that here's the thing with the Yankees I don't quite understand is that they have amazing players, but for some reason, once you get past Soto and Judge, I'm just not scared of their team. No offense. I mean, but I think that's the difference between the Mets and the Yankees. The Mets don't have hitters like Judge, who's just an amazing player, but everyone in their lineup contributes somehow. Whereas in the Yankees, it's kind of all or nothing. Either you get that home run from Judge and Soto that is going to win you the game, or you don't win at all. I think they need to get healthy, basically. But I think that the Yankees are going to be fine at the end of the day. So again, just taking a look at our radar. Now that I shared some baseball acumen. Once this cold front back here moves through tomorrow afternoon, let's say about 1 p.m., we're pretty much done. That's it. And then we're good for the rest of the weekend with very comfortable conditions. Talking about the weather pattern heading in later on, let's take a look at the EPS here. And the overall theme is, we're going to stay above normal for the most part. We're slightly below normal right now. Normally, we're right around 88 degrees for this time of year, 88, 87, somewhere in that ballpark. And then as we move into August, we get closer to, like, let's say 86 for an average high. For the most part, we're going to stay right around in that upper 80s to lower 90s range, which, again, when you take a look at the low temperatures here, staying in the lower to mid 70s, this is not the same oppressive heat that we dealt with a couple of weeks ago. Instead, it's pretty much normal for this time of year and for this region. Let's see, who is pitching for the... Oh, my God. Otavian. Oh, no. All right. This is going to be where the Yankees come back. I guarantee you. This is with Anthony Volpe. Let's see. Let's see what happens. And, well, strike there. So, let's see. 2 outs, bases loaded. Volpe's pitching. It's 1-1. They got a horrible key. You can't figure out what in the hell's going on. And they don't tell you either because they're busy talking about something else. And that's about, this is not going to be pretty. In terms of the pattern going in for early August, it's going to be hot. It's going to be 89, 90 degrees, somewhere in that ballpark. It's going to be humid, so heat index probably in the lower to mid 90s, but it won't be the same type of heat that we dealt with previously. And the Mets get out of it. There you go. Nice. So there's a ground out. Okay, so Mets keep the lead 5-2. That's surprising. So, again, this does not look like the same pattern that we were dealing with, but certainly it's kind of on par with what we've been dealing with for much of the summer. Upper 80s, lower 90s, humid, kind of disgusting out. No cool shots over the next 15 days. Not really. No. I mean, I'm not seeing anything. When you say cool shots, if you're talking about like the 80s, falling back into the 80s and 70s. That's September. We're going to have to wait towards mid-September. Let's say probably the third week in the NFL. Okay, to kind of give you a ballpark idea of when we'll really see that type of enjoyable weather, the fall-like weather. That's what we need. Let's see here. See what we got here. Of course, even if the Yankees take the lead, the Yankees bullpen has been awful. Everyone's bullpen's been awful. I'm telling you, the worst thing that's ever happened was that pitch clock. I know the games are faster, but everyone's getting hurt. Storms are predicted for New York City area around 11 p.m. are not going to materialize now. The thunderstorms that will be approaching around midnight will be weakening significantly. So let's jump to the HRR. Let's see, where do I have that? Yeah, here we are. Okay, so let's refresh this. And so it's matching this thunderstorm complex that's over the Appalachians now. As it approaches New York City, they weaken significantly. Why? Well, as they're approaching New York City, they're moving into an environment where you're going to have an inversion in place. So I do like the idea of a few scattered showers. You might hear a little rumble of thunder, but again, nothing really impressive. Your best chance for heavier downpours, maybe a little bit of rumble of thunder, Poconos. Let's see here. First preseason camp games coming up. Yeah, that's true. I'm getting ready for my Chiefs. They look like they're going to be fun this year. Boy, oh boy. Mets are up and batting. But overall, these thunderstorms, as they're approaching, they're running into a far more stable layer here, which is why you're seeing that weakening. In fact, here, let me pull up tropical tidbits here. So I like using tropical tidbits for their skew T because I think it does a really great job. So let's see here. We'll do central New Jersey, right around the central part of the region. And you see this part right here? This part right here is called an inversion point. Okay? Now, when a thunderstorm's marching along, okay, for the most part, it's unstable aloft. But right at the surface, right in the lower portion of the surface, that's where you run into these thunderstorms weakening because they move, they get weakened by that stable layer. And so that's why we're seeing what we're seeing with the thunderstorms as they approach, they start to weaken. But I still like the idea of a little bit of rainfall, especially north and west of New York City, like around, let's say, northeastern New Jersey. I don't think it's going to completely disintegrate, but let's say you might get maybe a tenth or a quarter of an inch of rain out of this complex once it reaches the coastal plain. Any chance of urban heat island effect regenerates them a bit? If this is more towards the early evening, then I would say yes, but while you're over midnight, in fact, it kind of inhibits it because what happens is that you create this stable dome, and as a result, it just kind of kills these thunderstorms when you're talking about overnight. When you talk about thunderstorms overnight, what you want is a strong 850 millibar jet streak, which we don't have in this scenario. And this is why. What the jet streak does, let's say that you had a jet streak lined up right here, right? What it would do is that it creates mixing, breaks up that inversion, and leads to a lot of that low-level moisture being lifted up higher in the atmosphere and enhances thunderstorms. In that scenario, typically what you get is a lot of straight-line wind gusts. So what that looks like on a skew T is that the 850 millibar winds here would be, let's say, about 50 knots. That mixing motion, that speed shear, breaks this cap because it's like a motorboat moving over the water. So it breaks the cap, creates lifting, and enhances a thunderstorm. In this case, we have no such type of lifting parameters. We have very weak winds, so you really don't have anything to kind of stir the pot and create that instability that would be needed. Great questions, though. Let's see what we got on YouTube here. Let's see. It's kind of the same idea. Questions about when it's going to get cool. Trust me, I am with you on wanting it to be cool. I do not in any way, shape, or form enjoy this type of weather, but unfortunately, probably mid-September is going to be our first shot at seeing anything that is remotely cool as far as the best chance. I'm not saying that that is exactly when we do get cool, but if we're looking for a potential, we're going to have to look for mid-September onward. Do we have any questions on Facebook or anything?
No.
Nope.
Tyler Stokes said, I don't know why ESPN airs baseball games.
Neither do I. I'm not sure if ESPN knows why they air baseball games, to be honest with you. So let's see here. All right, runner on second. Looks like that's McNeil. McNeil's really turned it on. Really impressive. And thank God, too, because that guy was losing his mind, breaking everything in the dugout. So I'm glad he's hitting something besides the water cooler. So that's great to see, you know.
Instead of destroying property.
Yeah, you know, destroying property is bad. So let's see here. Do we have any other questions here? We've had a great night. This is outstanding. You guys have asked some wonderful questions. With that, I don't think we have any more questions left. So we're going to call it a night. Outstanding job as always. Thank you as always for all the questions. I hope you enjoyed the baseball game a little bit more. It's a good practice for when both teams are in the playoffs, right? Right? Okay, so that's good. So as always, thank you for joining, and as always, stay safe out there, and I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Have a good night.